Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland. Here I am in Edinburgh, and I would hope that anyone viewing this video would be aware that Edinburgh is the capital of Scotland. So this video is going to point out what's good, what's bad about Edinburgh, how to make sure you have a good experience. So it's a fairly expensive city by Western standards. That's one thing to note. It's just got so much to offer. It's very historical, despite being not that huge. Other observations to make before I go back over the same in greater depth is that don't rely on the weather. Here I am in August. Even in the height of summer, there can be some inclement weather. So prepare for that. Bring a rain jacket, bring an umbrella, even if it seems to be warm. What else? It's a great jumping off point for visits to other towns in Scotland. Another thing is no need to hire a car unless you want to go into the countryside. The city isn't that huge, there's plenty of public transport. And talk about some of the attractions. So now what can I say about it having so much to offer? Well, I mean, it was founded sometime in the 7th century AD. Well, there's nothing that's that old here, but it just so much of Scotland's history took place in Edinburgh. There's obviously Edinburgh Castle at the top of a dormant volcano. Then there's another dormant volcano, Arthur's Seat at the bottom. It's astonishing that a capital city would have such a huge park in the middle of it, like not a landscape park, just wilderness, without that very high Arthur's Seat hill to climb, or is it even a mountain? It's got Holyrood Palace, at the bottom of the Royal Mile, and that's really a 17th century palace, the ruins of a 12th century abbey there. It's beside the sea, so you could go sailing, I suppose. There are not many ferries to take places. You could go deep sea fishing. Let me see, it's got a zoo, although that's not a fabulous one. It's obviously there's plenty of retail therapy to be had across the North Bridge. You see the North Bridge there, Princes Street, the main shopping street, and then there are historical monuments. You see the obelisk behind me, and there's a Wellington monument on Calton Hill behind me. Not Wellington, sorry, Nelson. A memorial to Nelson, as in the victor of Trafalgar. That obelisk is in a very distinguished graveyard where David Hume, the philosopher, laid to rest. So lots of historical houses to see, and there's fine Georgian architecture to appreciate. Things open to the public like that. Galleries is in the National Gallery of Scotland, the National Museum of Scotland, and it's got an exceptionally vibrant artistic life in terms of theatre and concerts. Well, there's the Edinburgh Festival, which is the largest comedy and drama festival on earth. Is all packed into a city of about 500,000 people. So it's quite compact when if you happen to come for the festival. It's on for 3.5 weeks in August, and there's something to suit all tastes. There are children's shows, things like that. So to keep the cost down, the blindingly blatant piece of guidance is don't come in high season. Do not come in August in particular. And come some of the time, Hogmanay, that's New Year in Scotland. That's a huge fest, so there'll be a big knees up, there'll be people partying in the streets, and do expect a certain amount of boisterousness and public inebriation then. But after that, after something like the 7th of January, be dead quiet. Another big hoolie is Burns Night, which is towards the end of January, as in the birthday of Robert Burns, the national poet of Scotland. So try some haggis when you're here. So that's from sheep's stomach. And it can be often served with neeps, as in turnips and potatoes. Sometimes it's more spicy, sometimes it's less spicy. Varies widely in quality. Those who are not Scots, and I'm one who's not, usually profess to find it repugnant. I actually quite like it. And obviously have a wee dram, as in whiskey. And obviously there's Scots beers to savour as well. So you can get around by bus and tram, and there are taxis which are reasonably priced. And let me see, going further afield, obviously by train. There are 2 railway stations right in the city centre. There's Edinburgh Waverley, you can see beneath me, with a skylight. The only railway station on the planet to be named after a novel, as in the Waverley series of novels by Sir Walter Scott. You can't quite see the Walter Scott memorial from him. So yeah, so much of English literature is written by Edinburgh writers, not just Scots writers, particularly Edinburgh writers like Sir Walter Scott and Robert Louis Stevenson and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Imagine English literature if those 3 are taken out, wouldn't get us very far. And Robert Burns too, although he's actually from Ayrshire but spent some time in Edinburgh, and he really wrote in Scots, as in, you call it a dialect of English. Some people say no, it's a separate language. but often he was writing in broad Scots, by which we don't just mean English with Scottish slang words and pronunciation, but where it's really incomprehensible to someone who doesn't know Scots as such. So there are hotels at all budget ranges. That's one of the pricier ones right behind me, so there are plenty of 5-star ones. So if you want to spend £300 a night, you will not be disappointed. There are plenty of youth hostels, especially in the Royal Mile area. And I was astonished that my friends actually found availability in August without booking. But you would want to book ahead. You might be able to get a bed for as little as £20 a night. Here's the Scotsman, another hotel. It's so named because the Scotsman newspaper, which is Scotland's most respected journal, used to be published in this building. And there it has the Scotsman. Okay. So Edinburgh has got a great deal to offer, and if you do come here though in the winter, do expect very short hours of daylight because we're quite far north. You know, midwinter the hours of daylight might be as little as 5 hours. It's not particularly cold, a bit chilly, very rainy. We're close to the sea, which explains why there might be gales here occasionally, and you'll see plenty of seagulls around. So if you want to buy yourself some tourist kitchen, a kilt and all that, you can easily do that. There's a writers museum, a storytelling museum, a City of Edinburgh museum. I could go on and on with tourist attractions, and there are plenty of places of worship which you might visit more out of curiosity than religiosity, and it's got gardens and parks aplenty. There's a botanical gardens here, for example. So Edinburgh, it's my top 3 of favourite cities in the United Kingdom. I mean, Oxford might be my second favourite, but then Oxford is not that huge, doesn't offer that much. This really is a marvellous city, so I can't recommend it strongly enough. I mean, you want to give it at least 2 days. If I'd never been to Edinburgh, I could easily spend a week here. So yeah, plenty of cultural evenings to see some Scottish country dancing, hear bagpiping music, and there are often people busking out in the street wearing bagpipes. I do find it to be a very safe city. Go down to the port, that's Leith, that area of Edinburgh. There is the Royal Yacht Britannia, that's another must-see attraction. I mean, there's only one of those in the world. So I give it my strongest recommendation. Put it like this, I don't know anyone who's not like being in Edinburgh. You can't, there's no beach to go to. Well, there is one quite far away, like 20 miles to the east, certainly, and you can't go skiing right here. In the Highlands of Scotland, there are a couple of ski resorts. Resort might be too strong a word. There's some ski slopes. So that's it. Edinburgh is a magnificent storied history, and it will certainly keep you entertained.